Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome in to SIN Sunday Sideline Report. I am Mike Rifkin, joined by Mark Halpern. Mark, happy Thanksgiving. How are you?
Mike, I am doing wonderful, and thank you for that. Happy Thanksgiving. And to everybody who's listening, including all the members of our group, a very happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, happy Hanukkah. Today's the first day of Hanukkah.
Yes, and I can't wait to get my gift from my mom.
I can't wait to just listen to the Adam Sandler song. All right. So happy Hanukkah, happy Thanksgiving. We're gonna just dive right into the football because that's what we talk about on this day. We'll start with the news of the week, and the first big thing that happened this week was finally something happened. Something giant happened. So everyone could give themselves a round of applause because Jason Garrett got fired as the Giants offensive coordinator. Now, I don't say round of applause because I'm happy someone lost their job. That's not why. If you've watched a New York Giants football game, you know why this is a round of applause.
Not just Giants, Dallas fans too, all around.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of happy. His name will probably pop up in coaching searches again next year.
Possible.
But I'll start with this. It's about damn time. And we kind of talked about this week on the Wishbone Shotgun podcast. It's not anything against Jason Garrett. But I kind of view Daniel Jones for this year to take that next step. I think a lot of people did. I'll go to you in a second, Mark, but remember 2 years ago when the Broncos turned to Drew Lock and he played really well at the end of the year. And then they said last year, here are the keys to the car, let's go. And he never set foot doing anything. I kind of feel that way with Daniel Jones. He was supposed to take that step, and he just didn't do it. And he's making the same mistakes he made when he was a rookie. And I know the offensive line stinks, but this team has good weapons.
They have a plethora.
You know, Barkley was a number 2 overall pick. I know he's been hurt, but he could still be effective. I love Sterling Shepard, but you drafted the same guys, him and Kadarius Toney, which never made sense to me. Evan Ingram, even though he has brick hands, is talented. Darius Slayton, down the field, I don't think there are many faster. And then you decide to spend $18 million on Kenny Golladay, who got targeted twice on Monday night. We'll get into the Giants organization as a whole in a minute. But, Mark, your reaction to Jason Garrett getting fired?
Well, the first thing I have to say is I am not surprised. Look, when Jason was with Dallas in those first couple of years, they played pretty good football. And out of credit to him, he did a good job. But just like Matt Nagy, it spiraled down and down and down and down until finally the fans weren't having it anymore. And Jerry Jones just said, goodbye. What happened a week later? He signs with the New York Giants. To me, that was to say, F you to the Cowboys. I'm going to another NFC East team, and I'm going to beat you. But I'm kind of afraid for the Giants, Mike. Without Jason Garrett, they don't know how to clap.
You might as well have given them the clap.
I don't know if they'll be able to clap their hands anymore.
Well, they'll have to listen to clap your hands if you.
But in seriousness, I do think Jason Garrett will be picked up. He will not be anywhere near the high rankings of what he's going to want, whether it's offensive coordinator, head coach. I think he needs to go and do what he was. Go be a quarterback's coach. He wasn't the greatest. I mean, he's not a Hall of Fame quarterback, but when he was put into games, he played pretty well. That's what I would do with Jason Garrett.
And if you're a young coach like Joe Judge was, he brings an element of experience and he can help with certain things. Now, Ian Rappaport of NFL Network has reported this morning that Dave Gettleman is likely not to be returning after the season,
And
which is fine.
That's great.
Here's my quote. Here's my thing for you, John Mayer. And I know you're listening, John Mayer, as you prep to do something I'll talk about in a few minutes. This can't just be a hire from within. You actually have to go out and explore and get the right guy. The New York Giants are too talented to be a 3-7 team. Too talented. So this has to be the beginning of what I'm calling the New York Purge. Jason Garrett's part of it. Dave Gettleman's a part of it. Joe Judge is a part of it. Daniel Jones is a part of it. Those four. If you want to include Pat Graham, I'm not going to fight you on it. I don't care. But the big four, the Mount Rushmore of the New York Purge, has to be those four.
I say we go Joker style with them, smash a pool cue in the middle of the ground. The four of them go after it, and whoever remains standing gets to stay.
See, the problem for me with that is I don't think any of them deserve to stay.
No, I know. I was just trying to make some fun.
No, I know. I got you. It's just we could talk about the most disappointing teams, and we'll talk about disappointments and surprises later. I think one of the more frustrating teams to watch are the New York Giants. They're frustrating in the sense of Daniel Jones shouldn't be making the mistakes he makes anymore. That you're not a rookie. You know, Joe Judge in game, I don't see anything. There's nothing special to me about judging Joe right now. I'd rather have Judge Judy on the sidelines personally. You know, Jason Garrett, we just talked about. Gettleman keep saying, "Oh, it's the line. We gotta get the line better." You've had years to build this line, and you've built that line the same way Starship built that city on rock and roll. Like, I mean, this is ridiculous. Now, do I know who I would love? Absolutely. I think the Giants need to go the experience route. They're going to go a head coach.
And there'll be plenty of names to choose.
And there are going to be names. The one that comes to mind, and if they're going to make a run at the guy I think they should make a run for, I would have no issue if Pete Carroll became the coach of the New York Giants.
See, Pete Carroll would be an excellent option. But Pete Carroll's more of an offensive coach. I would like someone like Matt Nagy, who is a defensive coach, and get that defense righted.
I never want to see Matt Nagy on an NFL sideline as a head coach again.
And I understand that, absolutely. I mean, but if I'm looking at their talents wise and not their personality, Matt Nagy has been a great defensive coach. I think Matt Nagy
was an offensive guy, wasn't he?
Nah, when Moore came over to Chicago, he transformed that Bears defense.
Well, I mean, it didn't hurt that they acquired Khalil Mack.
No, that didn't hurt at all. That was during the Raiders purge.
And we'll talk about the Raiders in a few minutes. Matt Nagy was he was the offensive quality control coach for the Eagles and then the quarterbacks coach / OC for the Chiefs. So he was an offensive guy.
Yeah. But when he came over to Chicago, he took over defensive wise. And you can see by the defensive numbers of what they did.
And there are a lot of other names that we could speculate and we could talk about, but that'll come as soon as Black Monday hits after the season.
Mm-hmm.
Do not go the route of the team who plays in the same stadium as you. Don't go the Rex Ryan route. I'm telling you right now. Every time Rex is on TV, he's auditioning for another coaching job.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the Giants, don't go there. Don't go there. If Pete Carroll gets, I would even consider giving Dan Quinn an interview. And I don't even really like Dan Quinn that much. But since the 25-point lead in the Super Bowl, but that would be a guy to be interested. Maybe a conversation with Gus Bradley, who led
That's
the Jaguars.
not a bad name either. That's not a
led
bad
the
name.
Jags to the. I know it was the AFC title game, but the Jags should have been in the Super Bowl because Miles Jack was never down.
No, he was not.
That was a touchdown. So that's part of it. If they want to look at, I don't like going the college route, but if there's a college coach you really like, but I would go with someone with experience before anything. Then there's the quarterback. We talked about Daniel Jones. There's two guys, because I don't think Aaron Rodgers is coming to New York, and I don't firmly believe that the Giants have. I've never heard the Giants associate with Deshaun Watson, so I'm not going there.
However, Russell Wilson
that's where I'm going.
Has said he would play with the Giants. Now, let's just superimpose this. Take Daniel Jones out. You put Russell Wilson in. That's a playoff team.
100%. And I will say this. The Giants have the ammo. They have the 2 first-round picks this year because the Bears moved up to take Fields. So you could use your 2 firsts this year, and then you could use Daniel Jones in the trade and say to Seattle, hey, you're going to get what Carolina got with Sam Darnold. You're going to have a year, maybe 2, to figure out if this is your guy. And if it takes another pick, by all means, go do it.
Mm-hmm.
I would try to get Russell. I would even look at Matt Ryan. I would even take a look at Matt Ryan.
So that's a couple of years.
And I'm not saying this out of spite, but I would not I think everyone would rather overpay for Russ than Matt Ryan. The minute Atlanta says it's 2 firsts, I'm out on Matt Ryan. I'm out. But I can have the conversation. But this has to be the beginning of a new era for the Giants, because they screwed up the old era. And what I mean by that is Ben McAdoo and his stupid-looking porn mustache benched Eli Manning in a game at the Oakland Raiders. It wasn't the Vegas Raiders, it was Oakland. But he didn't bench him for Davis Webb, who was a young quarterback. Benched him for Geno Smith, who you knew what Geno Smith was already. That is where I think the falling began for the Giants. And you could say, oh, well, they went to the playoffs and then played Green Bay. And it hasn't been the same thing. It hasn't been the same team. You have the Odell nonsense that happened. But that's the Giants, and we'll definitely talk more about this as the season goes along. But they are doing something today, the Giants. They're playing the Eagles, but they are also retiring Michael Strahan's number 92.
Which is well-deserved.
Which begs me to ask, what the hell took so long?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that gap is as big as the gap in his teeth.
It was kind of a little bit of disrespect for so many years. It's about time, and I'm very happy for Michael Strahan, even though he sacked Troy Aikman a total of 21 times.
One of my favorite players to ever watch. I had multiple Strahan jerseys, but that'll be later today when the Giants play the Eagles at 1 o'clock at MetLife Stadium. On to what everyone wants to really talk about. Thanksgiving football.
Because that's what Thanksgiving is.
Because
Forget
that's
family.
what Thanksgiving
football.
is. And if no one threw a drumstick for a Hail Mary, I'm going to be kind of angry, but that's a whole nother conversation. We'll start with the first game that saw the Chicago Bears keep on the
Marginally.
Detroit Lions. The Lions remain winless. The Bears win 16-14 on a Cairo Santos field goal. Andy Dalton got the start due to Justin Fields being hurt. 24 of 39, 317, a touchdown and a pick. Jared Goff, 21 of 25, a $171 and 2 touchdowns.
Not bad days from either quarterback.
I mean, I really thought I took the Bears in a pick segment, but I did not feel confident at all in this game about the Bears.
The Lions are that team that, yes, they are not Jesus.
They're 10-1
10
now.
and 1. Jesus. They're 10-1. But they're still a team that can surprise you. I mean, I feel bad for DeAndre Swift because it looks now possible he will go on the IR and miss the next 3 games. And I have a lot of love for DeAndre Swift. He's a great running back. Just needs a better line to run through. But I only had one statement about this game. No stats, no magnificent plays. The Detroit Lions, yet again, found a way to lose the game.
And that's kind of the way of how bad teams work. They find ways to lose. Like, I've got the stats in front of me right now, and I mean, the Bears controlled the clock, and there were certain things about it, but here's the most telling stat. The Bears had 5 penalties for 50 yards. The Lions had 10 penalties for 67 yards. Now, the yardage matters, but you don't win games when you have 10 penalties. You just don't. And look, they have certain things. I don't hate the offensive line. DeAndre Swift looks like the real deal at running back. They need weapons on the outside. That is what they desperately need. I mean, they leaned on guys like Josh Reynolds and
who at one time was a very good wide receiver.
Yeah, but he's never been a 1.
He's never been a 1. I mean, but he's been a good slot and a number 2.
Yeah, he's a good slot guy. Amon St. Brown, the rookie from USC, had a decent game. Hawkinson's probably one of the top tier tight ends who no one talks about because he's in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
But they need a guy who is, I don't want to say Calvin Johnson like, but they need that kind of guy.
They need a solid number 1, and we'll have to see what's going to be out there.
Listen, I don't think a free agent signed there. I don't see an Allen Robinson or Devontae Adams. So either A, you're going to have to draft one, which reminds me of when they drafted the Mike Williams from USC, the Charles Rogers from Michigan State, those guys. Or pull off a trade. See if you can go trade for a guy. You've got ammunition. Let's roll. And I get it. You're not – the Lions aren't going to go from 10-1 to 5-12 next year, or 6-11, however you. This is a process, but you make that process happen by acquiring players who can help you now and down the road. Because you're not going to hit on every draft pick. Unless you're the Baltimore Ravens, you don't hit on every draft pick.
Right. Look at the poor Jets.
That's a whole nother conversation. But We'll flip it to the Bears really quick, and they go to 4-7 on the year. And there were rumors last week about Matt Nagy's job security after the game. If they had lost that game, he was out. Doesn't matter, Matt Nagy. You're probably not going to be back there next year, regardless, because I don't think the Bears win out here, but they got a win they needed, and
Yes.
that's all I can say. You move on if you're the Bears, but it is what it is. Khalil Mack out for the season with a foot injury. So, all right. On to the second game of the Thursday night triple header, which really made Mark just sink into the stuffing even more.
Oh, yes.
As the Las Vegas Raiders of Oakland of Los Angeles went into Dallas to beat the Cowboys 36-33 in overtime. Derek Carr, 24, 39, 373 and a touchdown. Josh Jacobs, 87 yards and a touchdown. Dak, 32 of 47, 375, 2 touchdowns. Tony Pollard had a kickoff return for a touchdown. So, Mark,
Yep.
Have at it.
So the first thing I'm going to go into is I'm going to go for the one thing that everybody, and I've listened to a bunch of podcasts over the last 2 days, everybody was saying, oh, they had no Cooper, no Lamb, they couldn't win. No, I'm sorry. No. The first quarter of the game, Dallas played like they played against Denver. They were weak. They were slow. They didn't pick up on, there were so many missed tackles. Dak looked fine, everybody. You don't throw for that many yards and touchdowns with no picks, and you cannot blame Dak. I fault the Dallas coaching staff for playing Ezekiel Elliott. I do not think he should have played this game. If you would have rested him this game, he would then have another 10-day turnaround to get healthier and come back. Play Tony Pollard. We know what he can do. Cedric Wilson filled in very nicely at the third spot. And the team made plays. Dak got sacked, I think, once the entire game, which is a really big accomplishment for a line that is getting back together. But it was the drop passes. You had 5 drops that were for first downs and 3 drops that were touchdowns. But now let's go into why the game was lost. 27 flags thrown in this game. Not all on Dallas. Some of them absolutely were well-deserved. Anthony Brown cost Dallas that game, but with all his pass interference. But only 3 of them I would have counted. The 4th one, I don't believe it was. But the Raiders were being flagged for holding every drive. And if you looked at the replay when they showed it, there was no holding. It's like, what were they trying to do? Get in the record book for most flags thrown in a game? I mean, yeah, 2 players got ejected because of fighting. Whatever. Dallas made a beautiful run at the end of the game to tie the game up at 30-30. And then we go to overtime. Before I even go into overtime, I'm going to make it quick, and it comes down to the Tampa Bay game at the beginning of the year. Yet again, Greg Zuerlein misses 2 field goals and an extra point. That's 7 points right there. That would have been the difference in this game. So, Greg, either get your shit together or pack your bags and get the F out. For Christ's sake, Mike and I'll kick the long ones. Mike will kick the short ones. We'll come kick for the Cowboys. It will be the funniest thing on TV, but we will do it. We could do it. Yeah. In all seriously, I give Derek Carr a real tribute. He played a great football game. He's proving himself week to week that he should be starting next year in Las Vegas, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And we'll get into that later on why. Mike, have at it.
So I'm going to go to the refs first. I'm sick and tired of games being ruined by the referees. Now we could sit here and say, well, the penalties were even, and each team had 14 penalties. Why are you throwing flags 28 times? Let them play a little bit. A little bit. It's all I'm asking for. You ruin the game when you throw all of these flags, because who wants to sit there for 3 hours plus? Oh, there's a flag. There's a flag. There's
I mean,
another
2
flag.
Dallas touchdowns got called back on phantom holding calls.
It's not a necessity. Only throw it if it's egregious or it really impacts the play. I don't care otherwise. I don't care. The referees are ruining the game. This is not about the guys in stripes. It's not. It's about two teams settling it on the field. That's it. That's what this is about. Okay, on to the Cowboys. I agree with you on Zeke. And now they're talking about sitting him the next 2 weeks. Well, what the hell's he doing playing on Thursday? You can tell me if I'm right or wrong here. The Dallas Cowboys are not going to be judged on what they do in the regular season. Obviously, you have to get to the playoffs, but I mean, I still don't really buy Philly or Washington, even though they're kind of trying to make runs. But am I wrong? The Cowboys are judged based on what happens in the playoffs.
You're 100% right. And if you want to take it back to the early 90s, let's take 92, 93, and 95. They easily walked and ran the leagues that year.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone kept on saying, yeah, you could beat all these weak teams and all that. We'll see how you do in the playoffs and mount a run there. Dallas, I mean, look, Washington and Philly are starting to scare me a little bit because they're winning and Dallas is losing. All that's doing is gaining these two teams more leverage to get, closer to that playoff run. It's possible if Philly wins today, I believe they move into a playoff spot if they win today.
So my point on saying this was this. If Zeke's not healthy, give him the extra time to rest. I'd rather have a healthy Zeke down the stretch and into the playoffs than I need him for Thanksgiving against the Raiders.
Right. Tony Pollard doesn't have to prove anything. He's proven what he can do.
Mm-hmm.
So let Tony Pollard do what he's got to do. Let him play the next 2 weeks. He's never said that if he starts, it's going to be his job. He knows it's Zeke's. But they play such a great compliment to each other.
And here's the other part of this that I hate. Dak threw the ball 47 times. The Cowboys ran the ball a total of 20. I said this after they played the Bucks. I know the Bucks secondary's banged up and it's not good right now. Mm-hmm. The Dallas Cowboys need balance.
Yes.
Especially in a game where they don't have Amari Cooper or CD Lamb. You wouldn't want Dak to throw the ball 47 times. Like Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy, I don't know what you're trying to do. I don't get it. It's the Cowboys should be running away with the NFCs, but they are playing to a degree that they are letting the Eagles and Washington back into this. As well as those teams are playing. If the Cowboys win, it doesn't matter. So that's the Cowboys side. Also, I don't know what's happened to the defense. They're playing so well early.
They're tired. And I know that's an excuse, but you can see it. The only person on the defense, and no offense to one of my favorites, Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, you just push the on button and he just keeps going until you push the off button. He is a cyborg.
Oh, he was my favorite play, one of my favorite defense players in the draft. But
yeah,
my thing is going to be this: the Cowboys were good early; they were forcing turnovers. They need to get back to that.
Yep.
And next week's a perfect opportunity. They get the Saints, but it's Trevor Siemian, so he's good for a pick.
I think he's good for 3. But
now
the big part about that, when they come back to face the Saints, they will have not only one piece back, they get them both back. DeMarcus Lawrence on one end and Gregory on the other end. They will both be ready to play next weekend. Well, that is going to give the Dallas defense a huge boost.
Flip side, and we'll go to the Saints game in a minute. The Saints might get Kamara and Ingram back, so that
that's what's going to make for a good football game.
Yeah, that's Thursday. Thank you.
Plus, they'll have Cooper and Lamb back.
They should have Cooper and Lamb back. Let's flip it to the Raiders, because who now sit with a record of 6-5, and we talk a lot about the turmoil, John Gruden stuff, Henry Ruggs, Damon Arnett. You brought up Derek Carr before, and we're going to talk about the quarterback carousel in a little bit. But the dude goes out there week in, week out, and he always is throwing for 300 yards. He's always getting the job done. And I still think he's underrated as a quarterback. You agree?
Yeah. Look, I've watched many games where Derek Carr has had great games, and I've watched many a game when Derek Carr looks like a rookie. The fact is, he is a possible franchise quarterback, just not with the Raiders. He needs a team that is going to be built around him, meaning he's got a line. He's got a running back. Not to say anything about Josh Jacobs. It's a good running back. But he needs 3 good receivers. And, I mean, Hunter Renfrow had a good game. I knew Deshaun Jackson was going to score because of playing Dallas. But he was held to 1 catch. But that's not enough for this kid. You need to put him on a team. And yet again, I said it's a possibility with Russell Wilson. Derek Carr could come to the Giants.
Yeah.
And that would be a step up for him easily.
Oh, yeah. And just to make light, Renfrow, 8 for 134 yards. Deshaun Jackson had 3 catches for 102 yards. Zay Jones, 5 for 59. And then you get Darren Waller, 2 for 33, but he got hurt.
And he might be out multiple weeks now.
And that's a massive loss for the Raiders.
Right. We'll know more tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's a big win for the Raiders, but it comes at a price of Waller the baller, shot. And the third and final game on Thursday night. So the Buffalo Bills defeating the New Orleans Saints by a score of 31-6. Josh Allen, 264 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs, 7 for 74 and a touchdown. Flip side, Trevor Siemian, 163 yards and a touchdown. I want to start Saints-wise because the Bills are more fun to talk about at this moment.
And Moser, we gave Moser a reason. They gave Moser a reason not to end it all.
Well, it's Moser's fault that they lost to the Colts last week.
Because that's because he went.
Yeah, I know. It was a bad week last weekend for Buffalo sports. Bills lose. Sabres lose with less than a second to go on a goal by Ryan Lindgren. Oh. All right. But first of all, the Saints honored Drew Brees at halftime, and why NBC didn't show us it, I'll have no idea.
I didn't understand that either.
Yeah, so. But we talked about it before when we talked about the Cowboys. No Kamara, no Mark Ingram, no Michael Thomas, no Taysom Hill either, which was weird. And this showed in the Saints offense. It's just not the same team they were with Jameis Winston at quarterback.
And with poor Jameis Winston, he hadn't thrown 30 interceptions yet. So it wasn't a full season for him. But the injury to him, they're calling it as one of the most severe knee injuries in a while. And he might not even be ready by the start of next year.
And that's going to beg another question that we can get to in a minute. Yep. But no Kamara, no Ingram. I thought the Saints were a playoff team before the season. I thought Jameis could get them there personally. Trevor Siemian's not getting into the playoffs. Just not going to do it. This team has too much talent, but their quarterbacks, I don't want to say he's holding them back, but it's just you had to go out and get something different. I don't know why they didn't go out and sign Cam. I don't.
That was the biggest mystery to me, and I think not only you, but myself, I believe Dan and Patch all said that the Saints should have been his number one target.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. We alluded to it before, then we'll flip to the Bills. You just said Jameis may not be back next year. What do you do if you're the Saints? Who's the Saints quarterback in 2022?
I think it depends on where the Saints finish. Right now, they're all the way at the bottom of the league, so they're going to have at least a top 10 draft pick right now, unless they start winning games. Right now, if it stands, I believe they'd be maybe a top 12 draft pick, actually.
Well, they're 5-6. So
5-6.
Let me go find a.
I'm doing it in my head quickly. They
would have the Lions pick. Are picking one.
Right. They would have either the 9th or 10th pick. And it's a quarterback, again, another big quarterback draft. So I say at this point, New Orleans do what they do. If they decide to try to make a run for a playoffs, good for them. If they decide to just play lackadaisical and get that low-end pick and then trade all the way up to get as far as they can, make a deal with the Lions for the Lions to drop down and get maybe 2 or 3 first-round picks over the next few years, could be a move.
So according to tankathon.com, the Saints would pick 13th currently.
All right.
Now, here's the list of teams that may take a quarterback in front of them. Detroit's got Jared Goff under contract, so I don't know if they're actually going to take a quarterback.
I would expect them to take a lineman.
Yeah. The Jets just took Zach Wilson. The Jags just took Trevor Lawrence. Houston could take a quarterback. I don't know what their plan is. We just said the Giants should go veteran. The Jets we just talked about. Philly has Hurts. There's no way they're moving off of Hurts unless it's a real upgrade. Atlanta, I don't know what their plan is. Washington, I think they're talented enough also to get into that veteran sweepstakes of like a Derek Carr.
Mm-hmm.
And Carolina, who I think is also going big game hunting. So if the Saints want a quarterback in the draft, they can go get one.
They'll have opportunity.
Yeah, they'll have a shot. But I don't know how they'll make it work cap-wise, but they're another team that could just go in on Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, if they really wanted to. Because that defense, plus Alvin Kamara.
And then I bet you Michael Thomas would come back instead.
Michael Thomas would probably change his cap hit to stay. Yeah. Very interesting offseason for Sean Payton and the Saints. Flip sided to the Bills. They needed this performance.
Mm-hmm.
They needed
Absolutely.
this after they got whooped by Jonathan Taylor, and he gave them some real home improvements.
He gave them an Adrian Peterson switch spanking.
It was what a performance by Jonathan Taylor. But they get thumped at home. They bounce back with a nice one, but they also get a big loss. Tre'Davious White tore his ACL. He will miss the remainder of the season. That's a huge loss in the sense of this is an all-pro corner having another fabulous year.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden the Bills are down their top corner. So that's going to put more pressure on the pass rush, but it puts more pressure on Josh Allen and company to have more games like they did Thursday night and put up 30 plus, which they have a capability of doing.
Right.
Yeah. The one thing I'm going to argue, and I'll always argue, they need to establish a run game sooner rather than later.
That's something that's been an issue for them for the last 2 years. Kamara has been their guy, but Kamara is doing so much, whether it's running out of the backfield or catching passes. The man's getting tired. And when you get tired, you get injured.
Yeah, so that's the Bills who are still in second place of the AFC East. We're going to talk about the team in first place in a minute. But we'll welcome in our other panelist here, Dan Rhines. Dan, what's going on, buddy?
I sort of snuck in on you a little bit, didn't I?
You did. You're like Santa Claus coming down the chimney late at night.
No, I was going to say it's a big brother watching.
Dan, how was your
Glad to have
Thanksgiving,
Dan
bud?
here. For all of you who don't know, Dan Ryans is our vice president of the network.
It's great to be here. Yeah. It's a great Sunday morning. The Jets are going to lose again. And the Patriots are going to make me miserable for the next 10 years. So, that's
Positive vibes, Dan. How was Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was good. We watched football. I was very entertained by that Cowboys-Raiders game. Like, I really was. That was I expected that. I expected that to be a very entertaining game. And we got a good game out of it. Like, really, like I think that was an awesome game. Sorry to the Cowboys, Mark. I mean,
yeah. No, I said my piece on that game.
yeah. Overall, it was a good Sunday. I mean, even the Bears Lions. I mean, that was a brutal game. If you want points and stuff, but other than that, I was like, it wasn't the worst. So good day for football. It's a good Thanksgiving for football and good day for food. I got a lot of stuffing and turkey and desserts.
How did that pumpkin bread loaf come out?
It came out okay. It wasn't my best. The crust was a little too crunchy. It needs to be like a soft type of thing. But live and learn.
That's it, man. Live and learn. Live and learn. All right. We're going to move on. We're going to dive into today's slate of games. We're going to start with actually a real heavyweight battle in the AFC, which sees two first-place teams go at it. One team does not look like they are the real team because they'll be the Titans going into Foxborough to play the Patriots. I say the Titans aren't going to win because of this. No Julio Jones, no Derrick Henry. A.J. Brown was put on IR yesterday, and no Jeremy McNichols. So it's Ryan Tannehill against Bill Belichick. I think this is the first time they're playing each other since the Titans got Brady and Belichick divorced. But, also of note, Mac Jones, if he throws for 300 yards or something like that, he'll be the third rookie in the last 10 years to do it for 3 straight games. I'm trying to.
Wow.
It was him, RG3, and I'm trying to remember the third guy. I'll find it in a minute, but Mark, go ahead on the Titans and the Patriots.
So as Mike mentioned, yes, the Titans are absolutely destroyed with injuries. Your two starting wide receivers, your starting running back, your backup running back, all out for at least the next 3 weeks. So as Mike said, yeah, it's Ryan Tannehill versus Bill Belichick. I don't like to use the word slaughter, but that's what this game is going to be. I think Bill Belichick is going to go right from the gun and just put points up. I don't think he's going to care if he gets criticized. He needs to show why New England deserves to be in first place. Okay. Buffalo's failed, and no offense, Mike here. Miami is no threat, and no offense to Dan, the Jets are no threat in the AFC
man,
at all.
When the Dolphins finish 10-7 and wind up in a wild card spot, you'll all be sorry.
Mike, if I'm saying it here, Dan, you are witness. If the Dolphins finish 10-7 and go to the playoffs, we will find a restaurant that's close for the two of us, and I take you to dinner.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
But if it doesn't happen, you got to come very close, and you got to take me to dinner.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Either way, I'm there because I love food. So
yes, and Dan gets free food. So if I'm paying for Mike, that means I pay for Dan, and then vice versa.
Yeah, and we could just talk crap about Moser the whole time.
Yes.
Here's the note on Mac Jones that I wanted to bring up. This is from ESPN Stats and Info. With a win, Mac Jones would be the third rookie quarterback over the last 15 seasons to win 6 straight starts. Each of the previous 2 won Offensive Rookie of the Year. 2012, it was RG3, and 2016 was some guy named Dak Prescott, who I've never heard of.
Yeah.
But
you look at the Patriots on this half of the game, because then we talked Titans quickly. With the Patriots, they're finding good cohesion with each other. They're really coming together with Damian Harris and Steven coming out of the backfield. You got Jacoby Myers, who stepped up the game a little bit. Hunter Henry's having a great year not a great year. He's having a good year as a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Bourne is having a good run. This New England team is not a joke, even though we all said at the beginning of the season, New England isn't going anywhere.
Well, I think the thing is they spent money on guys, and they've all paid dividends. You brought up Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne to run. Jonnu Smith has had a decent year.
Yeah.
Then flip side to the other side of the ball. They paid Matthew Judon, who has 10.5 sacks. Kyle Van Noy, who for some godforsaken reason the Dolphins cut, he's got 4.5 sacks. Bill Belichick, for the first time, I think ever, really, we saw spend a lot of money. He made it rain in the club on a random Saturday night. And it's all paid off.
Yeah, and then of course you have Mac Jones, who has developed beautifully into this quarterback. And look, like I've said it before, he's not doing anything special. He's just moving the ball. As simple as just moving the ball, short passes, run plays, stuff like that. And it's unbelievable. And he's learning how to win. And that's big. When you're developing well and you're learning how to win, that's a good combination there. You're going to win a lot of games. And, the Patriots are very fortunate that they have a team that's all bought in, really.
And how the rest of the NFL let Mac Jones go to New England, we'll never, ever know.
Well, I believe Dan and I had discussed this during the NFL draft when we had attended it. Well, not attended it there, watching it on TV. And we all knew Trevor Lawrence was going to go 1. That was a definite. But I had Mac Jones after the 10th pick. I did not have him in the top 10 because when you look at the other numbers of the other quarterbacks that were drafted, they were much better. And you're going to take someone better. Bill Belichick saw something in Mac Jones, just like Bill Belichick saw something in Tom Brady, and set his eyes on the prize and got what he wanted.
And it's paid dividends. And I need to hear from Patriot fans if there's not a deal on Big Macs for Mac Jones as a marketing campaign. We got to make that a thing, New England. So McDonald's, New England, hit me up. We'll discuss royalties later.
Even it's like $1 for Big Mac. Like
No, I think if Mac Jones throws 3 touchdowns in a game, if you bring your tickets to free Big Mac for Monday, or if it's a Monday night game, it's Tuesday. We got to make New England, McDonald's. If you're listening, and I know you are, let's make it happen. I mean, it's that simple. But the Patriots are playing really good football. I can't speak for these guys, but I can speak for me and say, I think I'd put Bill Belichick at the top of my list right now for Coach of the Year, the job he's done.
I don't blame you, dude.
Yeah. All right. So that's New England, Tennessee. We'll stay in the AFC because we're going to all 4 teams in the AFC North are going to play each other. Steelers play the Bengals in Cincinnati. And Sunday Night Football, which is the real game I want to hit on, it's the Browns against the old Browns, as the Browns travel to Baltimore to play the Ravens. And we got to start with the Browns because I think a lot of people, myself included, had set a high standard for this team. They got to the playoffs last year. They gave the Chiefs a run for their money. Then they went out, they spent all this money on defense, and we all said Baker's their guy. Baker could go do it. If anyone could do it, it's the guy doing the Progressive commercials. I know he's been hurt, and I know it's his non-throwing shoulder. But they beat the Lions by a field goal last week. Did we crown the Browns a little too soon? Or, Mark, go ahead.
No, I don't think we crowned them too soon, because if you looked when we did our first show at the pregame, way back when, you looked at the Browns roster and you look at them on paper, they were going to be king of the AFC. I mean, you had Baker, you had OBJ, you had Jarvis Landry, you had Njoku, you had a good line. And their defense is not bad either. Denzel Ward, I could go on and on. I had them as a top pick. Injuries happen, and injuries are what destroys a team. So you ended up losing Kareem Hunt to IR. He comes back today. So this is the first week Chubb and Kareem Hunt are back in the lineup together. You've now lost OBJ because he wanted out and he was such a troubled mess. So, yeah, you're trying to get Donovan People-Jones involved. You got to get Jarvis Landry more involved. I think we did right by them in the beginning, and that's just my opinion.
Dan?
Baker Mayfield hasn't had a great season. Like, it's not pretty what's coming out of him. So that's another one where it's, up and down for him. And again, he doesn't have his weapons. So it doesn't necessarily mean the Cleveland Browns are a bad team. It just means that, the whole team is just not there right now. And because it's not there, it's really messing up with reality. Like they want to progress as a team, and they're really not. And that's really difficult for a team, for a team that's trying to go far into the playoffs and hopefully one day win a championship, or for a city that could really use one. It's hard. It's really hard to see that happen because they want to do more, but they can't because of the type of season that they're having.
So, Mark, as I was doing the rundown for this, I put down for the 5. We're going to talk about quarterback carousel later. Baker Mayfield's a guy who doesn't have a contract for next year.
Yeah,
So,
he's a free agent.
so I'm going to ask you that. I want to ask both you guys this. Do you think the Browns either A, franchise him and do what the Cowboys do with Dak? It's got to be 1 year, prove it kind of deal, or do they go out and explore? Hey, maybe we can wind up with an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson. Do they enter that fray?
Dan, you want to field this one first?
That's difficult because the thing is that, I think Baker Mayfield's a good quarterback. He may not be the best in the league, but I think he's a good quarterback. Definitely the best thing to ever happen to the Browns at up to this point. So that's going to be a difficult decision. I mean, if I'm Cleveland, I would definitely play it safe and tag him. I mean, I'm sure Baker would not like that because I'm sure he wants to, make his millions.
Right.
But
Hey, man, he gets that progressive money, progressive commercial money.
it's true. But yeah, I would definitely tag him again. Not going to be favorable to him, but it keeps him in Cleveland. And if he wants to stay, he would just take it and then negotiate throughout the season. They come to an agreement. He'll make a lump sum of money, and that's okay. But let's say the Browns want to explore other options. That might be a bit risky because let's say you try to go out for Aaron Rodgers, you don't get him, and then Baker goes somewhere else. Then you don't have a quarterback. So that's why I would try to be a little careful there. I would definitely play it safe and keep Baker. Baker's really a good quarterback.
With Baker Mayfield, I liked the draft pick. I knew he would do well in Cleveland. And the injuries that he's dealing with right now, and it's not on his throwing arm. He's got a torn labrum in that left arm. He's got cracked ribs. He's got a bum hip. My answer to all this was stop now. IR him. Let's see what happens in 3 weeks. If he's better to come back, fine. I don't think Cleveland, they could make the playoffs on a sneak in, especially with Chubb and Hunt. But when it comes down to deciding about Baker, he's an unrestricted free agent. You could tag him, and I'm sure the tag would be upwards and around $20-25 million. And that's a lot for one player, but you could tag him. But you could also let him go out and explore. And like Dan just said, let's say you let him go out and explore, and then all the quarterbacks you want are taken, and then Baker signs with Miami. Browns are in trouble. The Browns need to come to a decision when the season ends and make a decision what they have to do with him.
I'm gonna. You threw Miami out there. I don't know if that was a dig or not.
No, it wasn't a dig. I just came up with a random team.
No, I know. But the whole thing is, I don't think Baker's that much of an upgrade over Tua. That would be my statement on that. I'll stand by. If you firmly believe Baker Mayfield is your guy, you sign him. The problem I have right now with Cleveland as a whole is this. He shouldn't be playing if he's this banged up. And the thing he is doing that helps them right now is the worse he plays, the less money they have to pay him. Or however they're going to go about it. Now, they could totally explore the Aaron Rodgers, the Russell Wilsons, however they want to go about it. I don't think either one of those guys wants to go to Cleveland. I would stick with Baker unless you truly believe you could land one of those guys. I just don't see it happening. But I think this is a sense of they're going to tag him and they'll go from there. Now, if they decide to let him go freely, the one name that comes to mind outside of Rodgers, Wilson, I don't think they'll be in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. Kirk Cousins. And I say that because he played for Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota.
Yep.
And depending on the direction the Vikings want to go, my cousin Kirk is always a guy who gets his disrespect. Yeah, but he likes that. All right. Let's flip it to the Ravens for a minute because team, they got a win last week without Lamar, who was out due to illness, non-COVID related. I kind of think when we talk about the top of the AFC, we've talked a lot about the Titans, rightfully so. Patriots, rightfully so. The Chiefs, the Bills. The Ravens still kind of feel like that under the radar kind of team, even though they're really, really good.
Dan, go first.
This is on Pittsburgh, you said?
The Ravens.
Oh, the Ravens. Oh,
We'll go to Pittsburgh in a second.
man, I'll say this about the Ravens. The Ravens scare me a lot because, and they've had, they've had a good season, but they scare me because of the way they start. That's the only thing that's like, very nutty about the Ravens is that they start off slow and they finish well though. So that's a positive. If the Ravens can give me a game where they could start off well and finish well, that's a game changer, man. That really is. They're also constantly getting rid of people. So it's like for the right reasons. I mean, you're not going to keep all of them.
Poor Le'Veon Bell. His Ravens career lasted a lot longer than his rap career.
He's a good guy. I hope he gets somewhere. I know he wants to play. I think the Ravens are a good team though, only because they score a lot. Lamar's a great quarterback. He's an excellent quarterback, and he knows how to run the team. And Harbaugh's a great coach. So, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily call them like they're a good team. Like
I kind of feel that way in the sense of how we talk the AFC.
I mean, why? Because the Titans are top of the.
No. It's not just the Titans, but I feel like when people talk the AFC as a whole, we'll always talk the Chiefs because they're the Chiefs and they're the two-time reigning conference champions. We'll talk a lot about the Titans, and rightfully so, how well they've played. Mac Jones and the rise of the Patriots, Josh Allen and the Bills. And then we kind of get into those teams of, well, Herbert's played really well for the Chargers, and they smoked him. Carson Wentz and the way he's played for the Colts, and he's brought them back to 5-5, and we'll get to the Colts game in a few minutes. But it kind of just feels like they're not the top team.
Yeah,
but I still feel like we should give them a little bit more respect than what they get.
And I agree with that. They're everything about the running game, the passing game is terrific.
And the Raiders are going to have a little bit. Sorry to cut you off, Dan. It just came through on the wire. Marquise Hollywood Brown has now been downgraded from game time to decision to doubtful.
That sucks.
So we'll see. Just because he's downgraded to doubtful doesn't mean he still can't show up and play a down or two. but it means they're not going to have him at full strength for the game.
Yeah, I mean, once it's doubtful, he's pretty much out. Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing that kind of sucks, about the NFL is that you never get that chance. So
That's the Sunday night game, Ravens Browns. You'll hear Chris Collinsworth talk about how he loves everyone.
Yeah.
The
Just
other
wants
two
to
teams,
snuggle with his pillow with them.
the other two teams in the AFC North will battle each other too. The Steelers go to Cincinnati to play the Bengals.
Another good game.
Yeah, the Bengals won the first meeting in Pittsburgh. The
That
Bengals
was
got a
week
much
one,
needed
right?
bounce.
That wasn't
Huh?
week one. I was saying that was week one, but no, that wasn't week one.
I think it was week 2. If you give me a second here, I could look it up. But the Bengals bounced back after losing a couple of games. They beat the Raiders in Vegas last week. And I think we're getting a feel for who the Bengals kind of are. They're really good offensively. Defensively, it relies a lot on the pass rush. And I think they've shocked the world with how well they've played. I do want to talk mainly about the Steelers here because they got off to that really good start, and they haven't played great recently. I still can't get the fact that they tied the Lions at home out of my head,
Mhm.
but that's a whole nother conversation. Where are you guys on the Steelers?
With the Steelers, look, I was a fan of Ben Roethlisberger in the beginning. I liked watching him play because he could make plays that other quarterbacks couldn't. Now we're fast forwarding to today. You can see he's straining. You can see every time he gets hit, it takes him a few seconds to get up. His passes are not on cue. He's overthrown, underthrown receivers all year. Mike Tomlin needs to do the right thing. I mean, not to say that your backup is going to really do any better, but he's younger and he can move around more. I know the moment Ben Roethlisberger sees a blitz, he gives up because he doesn't run anymore because he can't. So it's time for Ben to hang up the cleats. You have a Super Bowl victory. You had a good career. Go out with dignity.
2 Super Bowl victories.
Sure.
And on his way to Canton.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and the Steelers right now, they're in a weird spot. You're about to, and I don't know if Ben Roethlisberger wants to retire. I would. I mean, like, how many more times are you going to get banged up, and how many more times are you not going to provide the team with your best ability? So I would definitely make that decision. You know what I also do? Even though the Steelers are having an okay season, I think it's an okay season. I don't think it's a great season. I feel like the Steelers need to start making changes in the coaching staff, and that includes the head coach.
You're saying Tomlin should go?
Yes, I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I'm just saying I think the Steelers need a new era, new identity, because he's been there for what, over 10 years or something like that?
Easily like that, yeah.
Yeah. So let's see.
I mean, he signed a 3-year extension before the season, so
I know
he's gonna be there.
He's gonna be there he's gonna be there for a long time. You're talking nearly 2 decades of Mike Tomlin here. That's a
They've
long
had 3
time.
coaches in 30 years. It was Chuck Noll,
and
Bill
that's a
Cowher,
long
Mike
time.
Tomlin.
And if the team's not really progressing, what more do I have to see from him, though? Really, let's be real. And I give Mike Tomlin a lot of credit. I love him as a coach. I think he's a great coach. He'll probably thrive everywhere he goes. But let's be real here. As I watch Rex Ryan do the stupid touchdown dance that these wide receivers have been
Yeah, I'm trying not to laugh.
No, I think that the Steelers need to consider it. They don't have to do it. I'll be more than happy if they keep Mike Tomlin. That's fine. But it's something that they have to really think about. Like, are we progressing as a team with Tomlin as head coach? I don't know if they are.
I think a lot hinges on what happens this offseason with Ben, how they have to upgrade the backup spot. I don't think Ben should come back, but Mason Rudolph's not your answer at quarterback. And Dwayne Haskins' career has gone down to Dwayne. So it doesn't, But Mark, to answer your question, that first Bengals Steelers game was week 3.
Week 3, okay.
Week 3. So those 4 teams all play each other. We'll wait and see what happens. The 2 most intriguing games for me of the day were actually there's 3, but we're going to start with 2. We're going to start with the interconference battle because you got the Bucks going to Indy to take on the red hot Colts, who have played really good football. We brought up Jonathan Taylor when we talked about the Bills. Jonathan Taylor should be in everyone's top 3 right now for the MVP voting.
No question about it.
I think the top 4 is Jonathan Taylor, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. I think those 4, and maybe Stafford or Aaron Rodgers at 5, but he's had such a good year.
And it would be nice to have a year where it's not a quarterback receiving the award.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at what last week Jonathan Taylor did, this wasn't a team that was 32nd in the league in defense. They beat the Buffalo Bills, who were the number 1 defensive team. And that's all because Nathan Moses decided, hey, I'm going to go to a Bills game. He jinxed them. All Moser did was jinx him, and Jonathan Taylor put up a total of 5 touchdowns, 4 rushing, 1 receiving. You can't let that happen if you're the number 1 defense in football.
Yeah, it was a spectacular performance by him, and the fact that the Colts have a lot of trust in him to get the job done, it's pretty incredible. And I love the play calling from Frank Reich and company. Moving that offense down. Carson Wentz, who's having a nice career resurgence in Indianapolis, good for him. But definitely Jonathan Taylor, like it's unbelievable, like what he's been doing all season. And that game against Buffalo, 5 touchdowns against the Bills. It's a pretty tough defense. The Jets couldn't even get
10.
Exactly. They didn't even get 10. Barely.
Sorry, Dan.
Barely.
The Colts are playing really well. The Bucks are the Bucks. Look, again, they're not going to be judged on what they do in the regular season. They're going to be judged solely on the playoffs. But this game is going to be a whole of a heck of a lot of fun. Carson Wentz, Tom Brady, the battle in the trenches between both line. Oh, this is going to be a good game.
You have to give hats off to what Carson Wentz has done during this year.
100%.
He's had a night. He, to me, is your comeback player of the year right now.
Yeah, I don't think that's close because I don't know who else is in there.
I mean, Dak would be.
Dak.
Bless you, Dan. Dak would be definitely included in there. But as much as I would love to see Dak win it and all that, I'm sorry. What Carson Wentz has done, even breaking his foot in the beginning of preseason, coming back early, and working with this team, they started 1-4. They're now talked about as a playoff team. And where the hell is Jim Moore when you need him? It's going, playoffs? We can make the playoffs. That's the type of Indianapolis Colts team we're looking at now.
if I could make a bold proclamation, they will make the playoffs.
I think they will.
There's no reason the Colts can't make the playoffs. There's no reason the Colts could challenge any team in the AFC to get to the Super Bowl. They're that good.
Super Bowl may be a stretch there, though, but definitely
no. But they could compete with everyone.
Oh, I agree with that. I do agree with that. And look, we talked about the Colts about having wins against teams that aren't great. Beating the Buffalo Bills cement them as a team that could, stick with anybody.
And they beat the Bills. They should have beaten the Ravens until Lamar took over.
Yeah, well, I mean that happened. It's not a disrespect to the Colts, just that the Ravens are.
It's just the way Lamar played, and So, Colts Bucks should be a fun one. Then we got two really good games in the NFC the late hours. We'll start with the Vikings and the Niners, two teams who are playing really well. And this game has wild card implications. Is the main reason I want to talk about. Both teams are 5-5. Kirk Cousins is having an MVP type season. If the Vikings were better, he'd definitely be in the conversation. But this should be a fun game, the Vikings and the Niners.
It's gonna be a powerhouse game. I think Dalvin Cook is gonna have the most yards he's rushed for all season today. I think Kirk Cousins is that's San Francisco secondary. It's not a slouch. They can cover. But when you're covering the likes of Thielen and Jefferson and tight ends in England, Conklin, I mean, and he's turned out a great year for a first-year player. It's going to be a tough game for San Francisco on defense. However, as we've watched the Viking defense, go 31-31 against the Packers, they got blown up in points by Dallas. Their defense is not as good as people think. And so it's kind of a cross game for me. It's going to be the San Francisco defense, and it's going to be the Minnesota offense. Nothing against the San Francisco offense. You got Debo and you got Brandon Ayuk and you got Elijah Mitchell as your running back. But Jimmy Garoppolo is my problem there. And I don't see him as a starter. And that's just me. Dan?
It's tough because, the Niners, even against the Rams, put up a 30 spot in the last couple of games. So, what it shows me is that, the offense is sort of clicking and that they're scoring points and, they're making stops on defense to prevent other teams from scoring. So the Niners have done a good job these past couple of weeks, containing teams. They faced the Jaguars last week, but, they still did their jobs and won games. And that's all they need to do is win games. This is a tougher Vikings team, though. This is a tougher team. The Vikings are coming off an excellent victory over the Packers. That was a tough assignment for them. Division matchup. You don't know what you're gonna get out of them, and the Packers are rolling, and they got the job done with the win. So the Vikings are not a cookie either. So it's going to be a very, very, very nice game to watch if you're watching it, because I know I ain't watching it. It's not going to be on in my area, unfortunately. But yeah, it's interesting.
Like Mama said, you could throw the ball anywhere you want, but you never know what you're going to get. That was a horrible Forrest Gump impression, but the statement stands.
I think this comes down to the quarterbacks. I like both defenses. I think you got great receiving duos with Ayuk and Debo, and Debo should be your offensive player of the year. I don't care what anyone says. What he's done.
Oh, he's had a fantastic season.
Debo and Ayuk versus Jefferson and Thielen's dynamic. I think the X factor here is which quarterback could avoid the turnover. And I just trust Kirk Cousins more than I trust Jimmy G.
Yeah, but we've all watched Kirk Cousins over the last few years. The man knows how to throw the football. But there are times where the moment he feels there's going to be pressure is where he makes his mistakes.
Well, that's where a guy like Dalvin Cook comes in for today. Screens, pass protecting. You know, I just there's something about the Vikings that I really like. I can't explain. I'll say this though. Every team in the NFC does not want the Niners in the playoffs. They don't want them. All right. The other NFC showdown we're going to talk about really briefly. The Rams go to Green Bay to play the Packers in what should be an epic game.
That's the game of the week.
This is the game of the week. This will be your Joe Buck, Troy Aikman game.
And you know he's going to love Aaron Rodgers.
Listen, it's Rodgers versus Stafford. And this is big for me for Matthew Stafford because we got to see him when the Rams played the Bucs. He was on that stage, but that was a home game, warm weather. This is Green Bay. It's gonna be frigid. This is the stage I need to see Matthew Stafford play well. I think that's the one question mark I think people have of the Rams is can Matthew Stafford play on a big stage? I think that answer is yes. And I'm not even saying I think the Rams are going to win this game because I think the Packers are going to win it coming off the loss. But be competitive. Have a game, Matthew Stafford. Are you guys in agreement or no?
Bless you.
Excuse me. Sorry.
I do agree with you with what you said, Mike. To add one quick thing, Aaron Jones has been upgraded to a game time decision. My answer is don't play him. AJ Dillon is fine. Get through this week, and you'll have a healthy Aaron Jones next week.
Well, here's the thing about that. They have the bye week next week, so you give them 2 weeks to rest.
And that makes the most sense.
That makes sense to me. Also, the Packers have never lost 2 consecutive games under Matt LaFleur. They are 8-0 following the loss. So
this is going to be a brilliant game.
The Devontae Adams, Jalen Ramsey matchup.
Oh boy, that you know who that reminds me of? This goes way back. Andre Rides and Deion Sanders. That we're talking about 1989 here, but
before my time.
Yeah, I know, but that's the matchup I see right
now. It should be a good heavyweight fight between the Packers and the Rams.
Both defenses have weaknesses, and I'm sure they're going to be exploited well.
Yeah.
I think the person who's going to make before I pass this over to Dan, I think the person who's really going to be making the difference is AJ Dillon. I think he is the key for the Packers today. Danny boy?
Well, this is another good one because the Rams, they're trying to prove to them that whatever happened against San Francisco is a fluke. At the same time, the Packers are trying to get another victory after a tough loss to Minnesota. So you have 2 teams. They're trying to prove themselves, and they're trying to obviously, battle for top spot in the NFC. So it's another good matchup. I think. Stafford's also been banged up a little bit, so that could be a problem. Like if you're trying to play these games, it could be a big problem if your quarterback's hurt a little bit. So I don't know. It's one of those things that I think the Packers need to take advantage of and try to squeak off victory, even if it means you have to do it. Run the ball, play big defense, hurt the quarterback a little bit.
So, before we go into the 5, a little bit of news from Adam Schefter relating to the Dallas Cowboys, Mark.
I know what it's going to be. Go ahead.
They are placing starting right tackle Terrence Steele on the reserve COVID-19 list.
Yep. That is they're going to bring in another lineman. That is the whole call for this. And then, guys, I'm not a political analyst. I'm not this, but Dan and I had talked about this going back about a little bit more than a month ago. And it pretty much started with Greg Zuerlein when he didn't kick a field goal or kick an extra point in that game. And Dallas was going through it on every 4th down. I don't know how truthful all these positive tests are. And is it an easier way for teams to get their players rest when they need to? Dan, I'm going to throw this to you before I go to you, Mike, because Dan and I had chatted about this.
Oh, now?
Yeah, no, my fault. I didn't make it clear. Yeah, just about what you and I had discussed.
But I mean, this is regarding the COVID list and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, teams, look, they do things for a reason. And it's one for protection. That's one thing. And secondly, any way you can get your guys rest and whatever, like that's what you got to do. Because even if it means resting your players a little bit just to get themselves ready for big games. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Mike?
So I want to clarify. They're putting him on the list. That doesn't mean he tested positive. Right. I think that could mean he had a close contact with someone. Right. I wish they were a little bit more clear on certain things with it. Like if he tested positive or if it's a close contact within the locker room, is it a close contact at home? I'd like for that to be a little bit more clear. I'm not going to dive into people's personal lives, but I think the other part is for the why put yourself at the risk? You have the contract, you make good money. Why not just this is not politics. I'm just saying this. Just get the freaking vaccine and move on.
Right.
Yeah. That's
and look, the vaccine. Look, the science is clear. Vaccine works, but I understand if you're a player you don't want to get it. Well, it's too risky. You don't want to put anything into your body that you don't trust. I get it, and people should still have, the choice to do it. But at the same time, you can suffer the consequences. You need to suffer, and if it means you have to miss a couple weeks and then have 2 negative tests?
Yeah.
You need 2 negative tests
24 hours.
24 hours.
Then it needs to be 2 weeks and 2 negative tests. And that's what it comes down to. As terrible as it sounds, because I know people want to play.
One more, Mike, one thing before we do head over to the 5. I just want to mention the NFL lost a great player last night. He played for the Chiefs. He played for the Orioles. And he was one of the first linemen who make the 3-4 defense work in Baltimore. And that's Curly Cup. It's a big loss in the NFL family. He was admitted into the Hall of Fame in 2013. So just wanted to give him a shout out. I hope he's up there sitting and watching the games and relaxing.
And hopefully when the Chiefs return to action next week, I'm sure they will do something honoring him.
Yeah.
So may Curly rest in peace. Okay, on to the 5. We're going to go a couple of topics, give a top 5. So we talked about the quarterback carousel. We've been talking about that throughout the show. That's been a theme. So, Mark, I threw this in our rundown. The 5 teams that will definitely be changing quarterbacks this offseason, I threw this caveat in. Try to avoid saying the Green Bay Packers, since we do not know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, whether they're going to divorce or they're going to kiss and make up.
No, they'll kiss and make up. That's my prediction.
As for my 5 teams that I see a quarterback switch coming, I'll go 5-1. Miami, Washington, Las Vegas, San Francisco, and the New York Giants.
Okay, so 2 questions off of that. I'll start with this. Is San Francisco based on the fact, is Trey Lance going to get the shot next year in your mind? Or are they going to – okay. Secondly,
I
the
see Trey
Vegas
Lance
thing
being a
also
star in
intrigues
this. I see Trey Lance being a big star in the NFL.
me. The Vegas part also very much intrigues me.
I just don't think Derek Carr fits in the offensive scheme. I mean, the guy's throwing beautifully. He's having a good year. But if you put him on a team, and I'm going to say like that, let's say Stafford then went to the Rams and Carr did, Carr be 7-3 right now, without a question.
Okay. No, that's very fair. That is very fair. All right. Dan, 5 teams you think will make quarterback changes this offseason?
Houston, I think he's going to make a quarterback change. I also think Miami's making a quarterback change. I'm going to be very, very clear. I don't want this to happen. But I have a strange feeling that Detroit is also going to make a quarterback change.
Oh,
Interesting. I'll touch on it when you're done.
Detroit, not definitely, but I don't want it to happen. I don't want this to happen. Washington and New York, the Giants. And not the Jets. Jets have their quarterback. But
it's
yeah,
Joe
those are my
Flacco.
5 teams.
Right. To go off with Detroit, it's actually not out of the question.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to look at what Jared Goff had to work with, which wasn't much this whole season. Yeah, no receivers. His running backs were injured on and off. They've been in some very close games that they should have won, but that's actually an interesting idea. I don't know how many years control Detroit has on Goff, though. That I'd have to look up. But if he is a free agent and he wants to leave, I can think of half the league that would go get him.
Well,
I think Goff is an interesting name. My thing is, I don't know if there's a team that wants his money. And that's where the lines are going to have to be calculated.
Well, the thing is that, look, I understand, and he's under contract for like another, 4 seasons or so?
Yeah, something like that.
And he's going to make a boatload of money because of it. And look, I never said that it's going to – I don't want it to happen. I'm not saying it is.
No.
However, it wouldn't surprise me.
No, I'm with you. I don't think Dan Campbell firmly believes in it.
And it's not like he is playing like the quarterback of the future. Look, he has played some good games, but then he's played some terrible games.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want the Lions, who are currently winless, if you want the Lions to, progress as a team that could win games, the way Jared Goff is playing, I don't trust it. I don't trust it.
No, that's fair. That's very fair. For me, the Dolphins, not because of what Tua's doing, it's because they don't believe in Tua. We talked about the Giants earlier. I purge the whole thing. Washington. Washington is just. I love Fitzy. I know he got hurt, and I don't blame him because he got hurt. But Taylor Heineke, the only good thing about Taylor Heineke is if you add an N to the back end of his name, it's Heineken. That's the best thing about Taylor Heineke I could say. You know, Atlanta. I'm over Matt Ryan. It's time to move on.
Yeah. Well, Atlanta, they need to. If they could either trade him or whatever it is. However they're going to do it, they have to do it. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, it's time. They should have taken Fields or someone at 4 to make that the guy of the future.
Yeah.
They didn't do it. And
Well,
Denver.
Here's the go for it. Sorry, Mike.
And Denver. I love Teddy Bridgewater, but I don't think they do. I think Denver's a team that's also going to look in that. I think that's why they locked up Tim Patrick, Cortland, not because they're great, not just because they're great receivers, but hey, Russell Wilson, hey, Aaron Rodgers, we have these good receivers here and they're locked up. Why don't you come play for us?
Right.
Also, in Colorado, you can smoke weed legally. All right, Dan, you were saying.
Yeah, I also believe that Denver's another team that could switch quarterbacks too. But keep in mind, Bridgewater's not a bad option.
No. All right, so those are teams we think we'll talk more about the quarterback carousel in the offseason. All right, so Thanksgiving's viewed kind of halfway point, give or take, of the season. Mark, I'll start with you. Your top 5 disappointments of the season so far can be a player or a team.
Okay. I had to think about this a little bit, because there are a lot, but I broke it down to 5. Okay. Number 5, San Francisco. After what they have shown over the last few years, yes, I understand George Kittle got injured early in the season, and that's a big loss. But you have talented receivers. You had a good running back. Your defense has been on point. But sitting with the record they have, it just doesn't make sense. Matty Ice. Look, the guy still throws for 300 yards at times. In the last 7 quarters that the Atlanta Falcons have played, they have amassed 3 points. I don't fault that on coaches. I fault that on the quarterback. Matty Ice is having the worst season of his career, and it's time for Matt to go. You're going to have a heart attack when I say this one, Mike. Ezekiel Elliott. I have been a Zeke fan since he's been at Ohio. I wanted him in Dallas. I got him in Dallas in 2016, 2017. He showed why they drafted. He has been in a bad injury spiral. The last 3 years, Zeke has been injured. Thankfully, we do have Tony Pollard to back him up, but this is the time where you rest Zeke this week, you rest him next week, and you bring him back after that. If Dallas loses to the Saints next weekend, then yeah, maybe you got to bring Zeke back a week earlier. He needs to rest that knee and move on. Julio Jones, one of the most disappointments of the year. I saw him there with A.J. Brown, both of them having 1,100-yard seasons. Yeah, that isn't going to happen. And then obviously what my number 1 is, that they're this wild animal that live in Africa. They're supposed to be king of the jungle. We're talking about the little baby cubs, the Lions, as the biggest disappointment on the season. That's my 5 for that.
All right. Dan, do you have 5 disappointments on the season?
Can't pull one out of my ass.
Yeah.
As long as you don't pull it out of mine, you're good.
I'm really disappointed in Robert Saleh.
Ooh.
It's a bit personal for me, but I'm gonna make it known. I'm disappointed in Saleh. I'm not saying he should have had like a 11-6 season. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the defense has been putrid. The offense has been awful. And there's no adjustments being made. And he keeps blaming the execution on it and not necessarily players, not necessarily offensive schemes. Like he has no business changing things up. And it's frustrating to watch as a Jets fan. You know, the same stuff every week with this team. It's the same problem.
Go out there.
So that's why I'm very disappointed that Sal is not making sort of adjustments to get the Jets better. Again, I'm not saying that they should be 10 wins, but get some wins here. Make the fan base believe that one, you're the coach, and two, that you could have a team to believe in going into next season.
That's fair. That's fair. And I think that's why you received a lot of criticism from Rex Ryan, which has to be on the next Jake Paul boxing card. But, that's a whole nother conversation.
I'm also disappointed in the Chiefs. Their first half of the season has been brutal. The defense is starting to come around. Offense is starting to come around, which is great. They're getting back some players. However, it was tough to watch the Chiefs that first half of the season, and it showed pretty much. I wasn't disappointed. I was disappointed in the Raiders for, they didn't have to comment on anything with John Gruden, but they could have addressed it a little bit, trying to move on stuff and all that. They could have done that. I don't think they did it enough, and it's only made it worse for the locker room. I don't think it's made better because I think that's still hanging over their head. So but they got a nice win on Thursday, so I can't give them too much crap. I'm disappointed in the Dolphins because they're not allowing Tua to be Tua, and I'm just gonna be real here. Tua Tagovailoa is Tua Tagovailoa is a good quarterback. I feel like he'll thrive in almost any system, but you got to give him a reason to thrive, and the Dolphins are not. And he has shown in the last couple of games that he can. So I hope he finds a place where he could do that. And I'm very, very upset the Dolphins are not giving him any chances. I really am. It sucks. I'm disappointed in Saquon. This is my last one. I'm disappointed in Saquon. Reason why I'm disappointed in Saquon is because even though Barkley's been injured, the reason why I'm disappointed is because when he's healthy, he's not giving you what you need to win. I feel like he can give more than that. And the Giants have won games with him, but it's what his performance is showing. And based on the performances that he's given, he's not looking like a number 2 pick. He's not.
For me, I'm disappointed in Sam Darnold. This was an opportunity for him to say, hey, I can play. This was all Adam Gase and his buggy-eyed problems. That was the problem. Go out, they start 3-0, and then the roof caved in on Sam Darnold. to the point where, yes, I know he's hurt now, but they went out, they signed Cam Newton, and Sam Darnold's not even going to be the Panthers quarterback next year. It's gotten that far. I'm disappointed in the NFL. And I'm disappointed in the NFL on two reasons. One, it's time to release the Washington football team investigation findings. You were so ho-hum and quick to release the John Gruden stuff, and rightfully so. Let's see how deep this really goes, NFL. And two, the roughing the passer stuff. I'm done. I'm done with roughing the passer, because now if I get a finger poke of doom on a quarterback and they fall down, it's a penalty. I'm done.
He's coming in with a death punch.
Yeah. So I'm disappointed in that. I'm disappointed in the Jacksonville Jaguars. And not in the fact of wins and losses, because I didn't think they'd be good. I thought they'd be entertaining to watch with Trevor Lawrence, Chino, and all those guys on offense. They're not. Urban Meyer is ruining Trevor Lawrence, even though he looks like Ronnie Sunshine Bass from Remember the Titans.
Sunshine.
So I'm disappointed in them. I'm not going to go off on a tangent on the Dolphins, even though I'm disappointed in them. I'm disappointed in Washington. I know they won 7 games and they won the division last year. I know Fitzy got hurt. It's not the same defense. For whatever the reason is, it's the defense I'm disappointed in. And the final thing I'm really kind of just disappointed in, I'm disappointed in the New York Giants. Dan brought up Saquon, and that's perfectly reasonable. I'm disappointed because this is not who the New York Giants are, nor have they ever been. The New York Giants are a straight up disappointment, and they're not worth watching anymore. They're not. They don't do anything creative. They don't do anything wonderful. They're just there. They're just there. And that's someone who has to watch the Giants every week. Those are disappointments. We're going to end on a high note. Top 5 surprises, Mark.
Okay, top 5 surprises. Taylor Heineke. I'm sorry, you can't have a surprise without him. After what he did in the playoffs last year against Tom Brady, he had a little up and downs, but over the last few weeks, even though there was a loss in that game, he has looked stellar. His passes have been on point. He's making better decisions. He's getting Terry McLaurin more involved in games. So I give a hats off to him. Deebo Samuel, a name you really don't hear a lot of, but the guy is having a monstrous year in the passing game. And he's also been running the ball, too, right out of the backfield. They got a nice double threat with him. So I see him as being a nice future star for San Francisco. Yes, it's going to be on here. Number 3, Micah Parsons. This guy is a beast. He is the water boy without the water boy mentality. All he knows how to do is sack the quarterback. And he is all over the field.
And his brother was on The Big Bang Theory.
Yes, as we all talked about. Jim, he actually sent lines to Jim, and that's how Jim knew all the football stuff when he had that one conversation on the show. Number 2, I knew he was going to be good. I did not think he was going to be that good. Jamar Chase for the Cincinnati Bengals. His comment in the preseason game, well, the ball has no lines on it. How am I supposed to see it? If you don't know what I'm talking about, a college football has 2 lines going around either end of the ball, and they are painted white. This makes it easier for receivers to see the ball in the air. In the NFL, they don't do that. So his complaint was he was used to that, and now he can't catch the ball. What has he done? He shut everybody up and has had a fantastic year. So triple hats off to Jamar Chase. And my number one, Trayvon Primetime Diggs. 8 interceptions on the year, 2 run backs for touchdowns. He did not have a great week last week. He blew a couple of coverages. Nobody's perfect. But no one saw him having 8 interceptions at this point of the season. He can beat Everson Walls' record at 9. And if he gets 4 more, he would own the NFL record for interceptions in the season. That is my 5 surprises.
Dan?
Number 5 is Sam Darnold. It's been hard for me to say this, but I'm surprised that he's been as poor as he has been. Because I expected Darnold to leave the Jets and do well because he has weapons. He's got a good coaching staff, better coaching staff than what the Jets were giving him, and more confidence. And what we've seen so far is a Darnold before the injury that what we saw from New York, and it's stunning because you would think Darnold would do whatever to change whatever. We would look at film, change things up. Like you would think that he would have the confidence to play better, do better, fix his overall game, and he hasn't. And for offensive coordinators and quarterbacks coach and head coaches, that's frustrating. It really is frustrating. So I'm surprised by him that he has not made adjustments, and clearly he's not going to play quarterback for the season barring a Cam Newton injury, because I think Cam Newton's going to be starting the rest of the year. I'm surprised by the Buffalo Bills. And the reason why I'm surprised is because of the many times that they've lost. Not necessarily many times they win. The Bills are going to win games. They're going to make the playoffs. But the fact that they have lost games that they should have won. And that's, to me, is, I'm not a Bills fan or anything, but if I am, I would be frustrated. It's frustrating to watch. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm surprised by the Houston Texans. They're 2-8, but they've played some games very well, despite having a really shitty team. Excuse my language. They've actually played fairly well against teams, even the Patriots. They played well against the Patriots. And at the time, the Patriots were sort of trying to get on that groove, and they've been on a groove ever since. So, I'm surprised by the Houston Texans, and look, their record is about what I expected, but the way they played has been absolutely pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not. If I'm a Texans fan, I'm like having a party here because I know my team's 2-8, but they're playing well, and that's what matters. The fact that you give them a game, give them something to believe in. So I'm really happy about that. I'm surprised by the New England Patriots. I mean, the New England Patriots are ahead of schedule with Mac Jones. Ahead of schedule.
Yep.
And if you're the Patriots, and your fans, you're like, oh, yeah, this is great. Like, we're going to go back to the Super Bowl within the next couple of years. Hopefully not this year. And, we're going to thrive and, be that, have a new dynasty that we can build up here in Foxborough. So, very surprised by New England. And I am super, super surprised by the fact that the NFL has not addressed the catch rule. How many more years is the NFL not going to address this catch rule? Okay, I'm sorry. If you catch a ball and you make a football move, I don't care if you're going to the ground, whatever it is. You caught it, you caught it. 2 feet down, make a move, you caught it. It's a catch, period. I don't want this falling down and having the control thing. Enough. Address the catch rule because it's ruining the game.
I'm calling right now the Patriots by 24.
All
I
right.
just saw the replacements that was put up on ESPN. Devonta, yeah, he'll be in there. I don't even know who the other two guys are. Never heard of them.
Was one of them Chester Rogers?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
That I would remember seeing.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry. If it's Tannehill all alone, it's back to what we saw in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
This whole plays back up.
Tannehill with no weapons whatsoever stinks. I'm sorry, Mike. He stinks.
I'm not going to argue this. So, for me, Carson Wentz. I'm surprised by Carson Wentz and how well he has played. Yes, Jonathan Taylor deserves a lot of credit. So does Frank Reich. But coming off the injuries, I'm surprised at how well Carson Wentz has played.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to echo Dan, the Patriots, but in particular, Mac Jones. All the other rookie quarterbacks have struggled mightily. Mac Jones looks like the real deal. I am pleasantly surprised at Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
I think that's one that I look at and say, okay. I just remember week 17 last year and him getting pulled for Nate Sudfeld. And boy, Doug Peterson, if you kept him in there, you might have kept your job. Because the dude has played very well for the Eagles, who were also playing fairly well right now.
News. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to use Jameis in this because Jameis had been playing well, but he got hurt, so I can't really use him in this. I've been pleasantly surprised at Cliff Kingsbury and the way the Cardinals have gone about their business without Kyler Murray and having the real Colt McCoy come in there and do the job for them. They've won, I think it's 2 of the last 3 without Kyler Murray. I'm pleasantly surprised at the job Cliff Kingsbury has done. And I'm just surprised about the Bengals. I thought Zach Taylor would be one of the first coaches canned. He's done a good job. Joe Burrow being healthy, he's done a great job. You brought up Jamar Chase. Defensively, they've done great.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Hendrickson's been good on the line for them. They've played really good football. So I'm surprised about the Bengals. And I think the thing I'm most surprised about, and I don't think we should all take this as a surprise, but the Gruden emails. And this isn't a good surprise. It's just the way the language has been spoken.
The head in the box theory from 7.
I mean, between him, Bruce Allen, amongst others, important figures in the NFL to talk the way they've talked. I thought we were past this, but we're not. So I'm surprised at that and very disappointed by it at the same time. But, that's what shocks me. Mark, you were going to say something very quickly.
Just a note that just came through. Antonio Brown has been deactivated for today. He will not play today.
And apparently he has a fake vaccine card, according to his former chef. That's something the NFL is looking into. I don't trust the NFL to release findings anymore.
I don't believe it. I'm sorry. When anybody says you're being accused of a fake vaccine card and then comes out and says, I'll go get the shot right in live and I'll get the booster that I'm supposed to get right live. I'm sorry. I don't side with this guy at all after what he's done. But I don't believe this accusation. This one I don't believe.
All right. So we'll wait and see what happens today. Enjoy the football, everyone, today. Go to the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. For Dan Rhines, Mark Halpert, I'm Mike Rifkin. This has been SIN Sunday Sideline Report. Enjoy the football, everyone.